Welcome to the One Body, One Life podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Jason Wan, lifestyle physical therapist. I talk about everything health and wellness related so you too can have a more resilient body and a more fulfilling life. If you haven't yet, it would help me greatly if you can leave a 5-star rating on Spotify or iTunes. That way I can continue to grow this channel and push more free content to all of you. Today, I'll be sharing 10 strategies on how to live longer. The definition here is longevity. Longevity is something that I've continued to push for myself and many of my other clients. I try to honestly span beyond traditional physical therapy, which is to help you with pain, injury, and rehab. And I try to blend my passions for nutrition, strength training, and everything in order to actually expand your life. So this is something that I'm actually very passionate about. It's something that I continuously look at research for as a hobby. And so I wanted to share this with you and things that I'm currently doing for myself. And I want to present some of the research that backs some of these claims. So let's start off with number one. Number one is actually one of my favorite, which is strength training. Strength training is something that I do 6 days per week at the gym. And I find that not only does it enhance my strength, but there is a lot of research backing that it can allow me to live longer. So the data from the British Journal of Sports Medicine suggests that 30 minutes to a full hour of weekly strength training was the amount linked with the most benefit in terms of longevity before that advantage plateaued. Participants who did any type of muscle strengthening exercise actually had a 15% lower risk of premature death from all causes. And combining both aerobic exercise and strength training consistently on a weekly basis was associated with a 40% lower odds of premature death from all causes. So that's pretty exciting because that's something that I do in my own life, which is I do play basketball. I run outside very often and I still strength train. Now, this is not for everybody, but if you can even do the bare minimum of getting on the elliptical or the bike once in a while incorporating a little bit of strength training for your legs and your upper body, pretty much trying to hit every muscle group that you know, that can actually decrease your risk of death by 40%. And the US Department of Health and Human Services physical activity guidelines for adults recommend strength exercises for all those major muscle groups at least twice per week, which includes weightlifting, resistance bands, doing exercises, body weight like push-ups or sit-ups, and even practicing some sort of yoga. And the guidelines also call for adults to get 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise like walking or biking, and or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity exercises like running or lap swimming each and every week. All right, so number two is to eat more protein. So this has been an interesting one because a lot of people think sometimes if you eat too much red meat or if you eat too much meat in general, that can actually increase your risk. Not necessarily true because actually animal fat is superior and less evasive than vegetable oil, for example. So eating more protein is not necessarily always associated with, let's say, increased risk of cancer. Eating that in moderation, along with a combination of either whey supplementation or other things, that can actually increase your longevity. So they actually did a research on participants age 65 and older. Those who consumed high amounts of protein actually had a 28% lower risk of dying from any cause and a 60% lower risk of dying from cancer. Credible authors like Eileen Crimmins from the International Handbook of Adult Mortality suggest that older adults eat enough protein in order to preserve muscle, maintain a healthy weight, and protect from frailty and strength loss. So if you haven't heard about my talk around weight loss, is that one of the things that you should actually do to increase your thermic effect of food and actually increase your metabolism to an extent is to eat more protein, because protein is the thing that actually takes the most energy to break down compared to carbohydrates and fats. So that's why people that generally eat more protein also are associated with maintaining a better healthy weight, along with preserving more muscle as they age. So that kind of brings me into number three, which is maintaining a healthy weight. You basically accomplish this by being in a caloric restriction if you are overweight, and then achieving a caloric maintenance. So eating less food will actually extend your life by as much as 7 years. And the reason for that is because caloric deficits predictably reduce common health problems like diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and cognitive decline, as well as the likelihood of obesity and insulin resistance. So for some people, you can incorporate intermittent fasting, such as a 16 to 8 hour fasting regimen. So basically that's 16 hours of fasting followed by an 8 hour window of eating. And you can even incorporate even an 18-6 model if you want to take things to another level. And what this has shown to clinically improve is weight loss, insulin stability, and decreased cholesterol and blood pressure, as well as energy levels, increased energy levels, and mental alertness. And outside of changing your eating window, you can also track your daily intake. And there's a wide variety of apps out there. Lose It, MyFitnessPal. I also use MacroFactor. And these all have similar features, allowing you to track your macronutrients and calories throughout the day and make adjustments if you're not seeing a change in your weight. So ultimately, if you're somebody that has a normal BMI, is not necessarily associated with longevity per se, but being in a caloric restriction allows you to increase your mental alertness. It allows you to maintain better insulin stability and make you a little bit more responsive, in which when you eat carbohydrates, insulin is more responsive to shuttling the glucose and some of those sugars into the right areas like your muscle and your liver. So that is what number 3 is about, which is maintaining a healthy weight. And number 4 is sleep. Sleep, you want to get in at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And that is generally the gold standard for any book or research that I've seen is 7 to 9 hours. And research shows that getting even 1 hour less sleep on a single day can increase your chance of a heart attack by over 24%. And there are more than 15,000 studies linking sleeping less than 7 hours per night with coronary heart disease, stroke, asthma, atherosclerosis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, arthritis, depression, high blood sugar, diabetes, and kidney disease, even after adjusting for other factors like smoking and obesity, which is wild. So to ensure you get enough restful sleep, try using things like a sleep tracking app or device and sleep in absolute darkness and a cool room. Usually, if you're too hot, you're going to move around more. You're not going to be as restful, but being in a optimal environment around 63 to about 66 degrees for most people, that is generally the recommended. Obviously, if you get it too cool, then you're going to shiver and you're not going to get restful sleep too. So there's always that balance. But the general rule, 7 to 9 hours and about 63 to 66 degrees Fahrenheit is the optimal window. You also want to make sure, and things that have helped me because I used to be a chronic insomniac, is make sure to dump as much information out of your head into a journaling app or a regular journal in order to clear your mind prior to sleep. So if you're thinking about work-related things or what you need to do for your kids the next day, that actually can keep you up. So if you put that down on paper, that actually clears your mind tremendously and allows you to get more restful sleep. I also end my nights with my own mobility routine that kind of activates the parasympathetic nervous system, allows me to calm down before I sleep instead of getting riled up. And mobility also allows me, let's say if you have low back or neck pain and you wake up consistently with that, that also allows your body to feel a little bit more mobile and a little bit more adaptable to any surface, any mattress, and get more restful sleep instead of waking up. So number 5 is getting daily sunlight. So this one's pretty quick, but being in the sun during the daytime validates our circadian rhythm and encourages longevity. UV radiation also boosts our vitamin D and serotonin levels. What also UV radiation has been shown to do is get a lot of serotonin, which serotonin, like I've said before in my previous podcast episodes, serotonin actually gets converted into melatonin into the last hours of your sleep. So serotonin, you're gathering as much as you can while you're in the sun. And then as it's in a darker environment and as you're winding down the day, that serotonin gets converted to melatonin, which then leads you into, again, getting better quality sleep and longer sleep. Of course, there are risk factors for getting too much sun. So again, I guess the name of the game is everything in moderation. But if you get too much sun exposure, that will lead to damaged cellular DNA and also increase your risk for things such as skin cancer. Number 6 is to get an annual physical exam. Prevention is key. So first of all, the research does not suggest that a head-to-toe annual checkup will help you to live longer or have fewer health problems. And that is just based on more so the healthy behaviors and habits that we shared thus far. Research also doesn't validate or support one's ability to live longer or prevent disease, even if you, for example, go to a doctor. But in the rare circumstances for some people that, let's say, have a certain cancer, a certain grade of cancer that can be life-threatening, And if things are caught early, then that way it allows you to prevent that early. However, if you are in relatively good health, there's every reason to believe an annual checkup makes no difference and certain tests are not useful. But if some disease or condition runs in the family, and research also backs that if a family member has passed below the age of 60, and again, doesn't live beyond 60, it may be worth getting an exam to ensure that there are no life-threatening conditions that you're not aware of. Sometimes symptoms do not occur until something has metastasized and the condition is considered terminal. So number 7 is quitting poor habits. And the two that I want to highlight are smoking and alcohol. And then I have one under-recognized habit that I'll share later. But let's hit on smoking. Smoking is by far the easiest no-no for those looking to consider living longer and aging young. It causes 90% of lung cancer death and 80% of all pulmonary disease. And it also increases the risk of coronary heart disease and stroke 2 to 4 times and raises your risk of getting cancer at least 25 times. So statistically, cigarette smoking shaves 10 years of your life. That is a whole entire decade. And so for some of you that may be addicted, it may be worth you saying that I know that I'm smoking half a pack, or even 2 packs a day, and it may be worth considering getting consulting or some sort of even a coach. And there are a lot of like addiction coaches out there that can help you get on the right path. So let's talk about alcohol. High and regular use of alcohol can actually damage your liver and pancreas. It causes high blood pressure, increases your risk of heart attack and stroke, brings on immune system disorders, and leads to early onsets of Alzheimer's disease. For those that have trouble getting alcohol down, you may aim for just 1 or 2 glasses of wine over a weekend at best. You can even have a reward system where you earn that glass of wine or earn that beer by doing some of the things above, like getting better sleep consistently. Or let's say you exercise 3 or 4 times that week. You set a certain time window, and that allows you to earn your way towards drinking the alcohol without over consuming. All right, so number eight, it's complete opposite, which is starting good habits. And like some of the things that we mentioned, strength training, sleeping, and getting sunlight daily are some of my absolute favorites. And remember, habits are tendencies to perform things without conscious efforts. So the last thing you want to do is force yourself to go to gym when you can simply automate the ability to do. So how do you do that? You can set specific times. You'll be at a certain place. So for example, in my own life, I wake up consistently at 5:45 a.m. I get to the gym by around 6:30 to 6:40, and I end the gym around 6:50. And it's basically an automated process now. It doesn't require a lot of, do I get up from bed or do I not get up from bed? Am I motivated? Am I not motivated? So when you start asking these questions based on your motivation levels, your emotions, like, am I happy or sad? Then it creates the ability to make some of these good habits a negotiable. And that's not necessarily making habits at all. So if you can create more automated things, that allows you to do more of these healthy things with less effort. And one last tip for here is creating triggers. Triggers can be auditory, visual, or tactile. Basically, that's what you hear or what you feel on your body. So a vibration of a watch, a sound of an alarm clock, some alarms that go off on your computer in order to get you up and to start moving around. There's a reason for that. It's not by chance that you're moving around. It's because there's an actual trigger. So triggers that I have in my own life is if you put like your running shoes in the closet, you're not necessarily going to use it. But if you put your running shoes near the front door, that's actually going to increase your likelihood of actually getting in that cardiovascular activity. You can also replace junk food on your table with fruits or vegetables. So laws of convenience and creating triggers, that allows you to build on some of these habits. And there's so much more than that. I actually have a full course about habits alone. And I do tell my clients consistently that they cannot succeed in my program long-term unless they actually make these a part of their life. Okay, so number 9 is be grateful. Research actually has been shown that being grateful can bestow substantial longevity benefits too. And a 2019 study at the Boston University School of Medicine followed more than 70,000 individuals for 10 to 30 years, tracking their attitudes and health. And the research concluded that optimism is specifically related to an 11 to 15% longer lifespan and to greater odds of achieving exceptional longevity, and even adjusting for other lifestyle factors. According to one study, older adults who volunteer for 2 or more organizations and giving their time for the sake of gratitude and for giving back enjoys a 44% smaller chance of dying early than those who do not. So the last and final one, and number 10, which is likely one of my favorites, but all of them are my favorites. Number 10 is living with purpose. And I read a book called Ikigai, which means in Japanese, the reason to live. And having such a reason can actually make you live longer. And one of the reasons is that people that they studied in the Ikigai book, which is the Okinawans, a province in Japan, and why they live so long, on average, women live actually 90 years and men actually live 84 years. Some of them even reach what they call a centurion, which is over 100, or super centurion, which is over 110 years old. And in one study of more than 73,000 Japanese people, those reported having found more ikigai, which is, again, finding a specific purpose in life and sticking to that purpose, increase their chances of outliving the study by 7% for women and 15% for men. So if you look at some of the things that you do in life, which can be monotonous, you're just going through the day-to-day 9 to 5 things, taking care of your kids, let's say even exercising, right? Some of those things are great habits. However, if you're doing that with very minimal purpose, then it's to no avail. And again, living with purpose, having gratitude, and many other things that we just talked about will not just increase your longevity. So don't just think about actually living longer, but to actually live, like I always say, a more fulfilling life. You can live, like somebody can live to 70 to 75 years of age and feel completely fulfilled and be perfectly fine with passing away at that age. So getting into the point of longevity for me, I do want to live to 100. That's just one of my goals. However, living to 100 and continuing to live into my 80s and 90s with still a purpose, with ikigai, there's a reason to live, right? When you have no reason to live, a lot of times our body and the many organs in our bodies and our systems will tend to shut down pretty early, not allowing ourselves a chance to actually live longer. So that's what I got for you guys today. Hopefully that you enjoyed it and that you can use some of these principles for your own sake. And if you enjoyed this episode, definitely hit that subscribe or follow button. I release new episodes every morning on Wednesdays. And I'd love if you can leave a rating or review on Spotify or iTunes, so my content will reach more people who could benefit from the tips I put out. And you would be a huge part in growing my podcast. If there's any feedback about the content I'm putting out, good or bad, if there's anything specific you want to know or for me to cover in future episodes, just send me a quick text, 415-965-6580, or email me at jason@FlexwithDoctorJay.com. Just put the subject line podcast, and I reply to all my messages personally. So I will leave you with always these last words of advice. We only have one body, one life. Make every action you take be the one that makes you a better version of you. Take care.